Okay, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We're going to go ahead and get started with the council info session. Advance my slides here. There we go. Since we don't have our cameras on tonight, this is so that you can see the faces of who is here tonight. I am Jeanette Stackhouse. I work in the State 4-H office as the Teen Program Manager.
And hi, everybody. I'm Sam Nicola. I'm also a co-advisor on the Northumberland County 4-H Youth Development Educator.
And we also have a current state council member on the line, Trisha. Trisha, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Trisha Porball. I'm currently serving as secretary, and I'm from Fayette County.
So Trisha will be here to fill in some details for us and help us answer your questions as the night goes on. So this is what we're covering tonight is really a summary of our council handbook. So hopefully you have taken a chance to look at that on our website. Yesterday, the 2020 version was uploaded. So what is there now is the most current handbook that will relate to the upcoming 2020 State Council team.
And just a quick reminder before we talk about this slide is if you have questions, please go ahead and just type them in the chat pod on your device, and we'll be monitoring that throughout the session to see if it's something we can wait till the end or if it's something we need to jump in with right away. So what you see here is just simply a graphic that the leadership team for the 4-H Youth Development Team in the state came up with that shows the path you should take as you go through your leadership development skills yourself as a 4-H'er. So you start as just being a member, hopefully working your way up to a club officer and county council, and then hit some regional and state opportunities like camps, state leadership conference, and then your national events and state council, of course, being the top of the mountain before we send you off to engage in the world.
Okay, so hopefully since you're on this, you know a little bit about what state council is. You have some interest in it. So real quick, what state council is the highest leadership position that a 4-H'er can hold in Pennsylvania. So it certainly comes with it some leadership skills that you will share with others, but it's also an opportunity for you to have some more advanced leadership training. State Council also plays a big role in our state events. On many of them, they serve on the planning committee, especially for SLC, our leadership conference. If you have been to that event before, you have probably seen them all over the event. They participate in picking our workshops, some of our presenters, the keynote, decorations, the theme, every aspect of leadership conference. And finally, you serve as the official spokespeople as interacting with the public who potentially do not know what 4-H is or don't know everything that we have available in 4-H. They also speak with public officials pretty regularly. They represent the 4-H program at many industry events. So as we're coming into the fall, we have several events like the State Dairy Show, Farm Bureau annual meeting. I'm trying to think of some other ones, Farm City Day, things that are involved in the agriculture community that we go and attend on behalf of 4-H. And also, just because our members are on state council, their faces become known all over. They're usually part of our social media, our campaigns for National 4-H Week and Pennsylvania 4-H Week, and anything else in between. Last year, they modeled our apparel in the store for us on our social media posts. So they are all over the place as far as the publicity that they receive through the year.
So now we're going to talk a few minutes about what we're looking for from a state council applicant. So first and probably most importantly is that you're a 4-H member in good standing in your 4-H program. That's one of the first things we're going to check, is whether or not you're enrolled in a 4-H club, you're active in your county, and that your educator in the county knows who you are. Age-wise, you need to apply at ages 16 or 17 in order to be a council member. So that means you will serve at ages 17 or 18 is how the plan works there. And kind of what I said at the beginning, you must be enrolled on 4-H Online throughout your council term and prior to applying at all for council. So prior 4-H leadership, any prior 4-H leadership role experience is definitely a major plus and something you definitely should have before you come to be a state council member. That could be a club officer, a team leader in your club, anything like that. Of course, county council experiences and state attendance event attendance is also a plus. So county council experiences, officer positions, again, there would be great, but just being actively involved in your county council, if you have one, is highly recommended. And state event attendance, which currently there are 2, and we're working on getting the 3rd up and running, the 2 current ones are, of course, State Leadership Conference in February and Capitol Days in the spring. You should have existing strong leadership skills. So leadership skills like in public speaking, teamwork. There's a whole list of leadership skills that hopefully you've heard in your county council programs and so on that are definitely important for you to have. Being responsible. Your work as a member of the team, and often when one fails, the entire team can fail with them. So we want to try to make sure that you understand your responsibilities to not just the state of Pennsylvania and the state 4-H program, but to the team members you're working with. And again, that kind of goes along with the last point there with exceptional teamwork. You need to be able to work together as a team, be able to communicate with each other, and hopefully along the way, learn a lot and have a great time together.
Going through some additional expectations, some of them Sam touched on as well, but we say them again because they're so important to the team functioning. Follow through is certainly important with doing what you say you will do and keeping up with the assignments that we have. There's goal setting at the beginning of the year that is very important to keep the team on track. So keeping up with those tasks. There's also a great time commitment to being a council member, as Tricia might be able to attest to. We say 5 hours a week is about what you should expect, and that's a good estimate of how much general time you might spend answering emails, working on assignments together, maybe doing a club visit here and there. That's typically what a normal week will look like. Of course, when we get closer to events, that might increase a bit, and definitely while we are at the event, it can be 12, 15-hour days when we're at the actual events. There's also event requests, which we'll touch on here in a bit. Having a positive attitude and showing the best face of 4-H. You might be the only person that someone ever meets from 4-H, and we want to leave them with a good impression of who we are. We meet so many people throughout the course of the term. Assignment deadlines, we provide as best that we can a list at the beginning of your term of all of the assignments that you'll have and give the deadlines for those assignments. There's something for almost every event that needs to be planned by the council or have some decisions made. We set the deadlines because it usually requires another step afterwards. Some other task needs to be done by our office or some of the planning offices on campus that we work with who take our ideas and make them actually happen. There are so many pieces that go on behind the scenes, even for council, that need to fall into place. So deadlines are very, very important. We'll talk later about some of the monthly assignments that you have, and those all have deadlines to go with them. They especially come into play with whoever is selected as the reporter on the team. We have a great opportunity to work with the Lancaster Farming newspaper and have our monthly column in there, and it's the reporter's job to put together some stories for it, also highlight what team members are doing. A lot of times that gets compiled into a newsletter that goes to 4-H staff all across the state, and the reporter getting that all complete and turned in by their deadline is dependent on team members getting it turned in by the deadline set for them. So there's a lot of domino effects that come with the deadline. So just making sure that that is something that you can follow through with. Responding timely to messages. We communicate primarily through email, sometimes through text as well as a group text. We typically, if we're texting you, it's probably something urgent that we need you to take care of, or we do that during events. Emails are more common, just with sending out requests and getting feedback on things. You will create a council email, especially for your council duties and keeping the calendar and everything together if you are selected. Being a team player is very important. Even though we have officer positions, it's kind of like that the name on the front is more important than the name on the back kind of concept with sports jerseys. Is the council is all one team. Even though there are officer positions, everyone still does the same work. There might be some cases where we look to one person to oversee something, but everyone has to pull their own weight and contribute to the overall team for them to be successful. There are times where you'll travel for event requests. We get requests all throughout the year to come to different things, club meetings, fairs, achievement banquets, all kinds of things that come on throughout the year. We do expect that council members attend at least 5 local events. There is certainly no shortage of requests, so that's a pretty easy number to make, but just know that we do expect you to be at 5. And lastly, this is a position that even when you're not in uniform, you should have the stance and presence of being a council member. People will start to recognize your faces and see you out and about, and so they recognize you even when you're not in uniform. And we expect your conduct to still be what we would expect of you if you were in the uniform.
And now a little bit more about the time commitments. Jeanette mentioned many of these, but we're going to run through them again just to ensure that you really understand what you are committing to. So the first set of commitments here is, like Jeanette just said, your appearance is a minimum of at least 5 local events. And like she said, that's typically not an issue for you to get to them because there's lots and lots of requests for you to do things. We have monthly council meetings. About half and half are either Zoom meetings like you're in now, where we're all together talking, having your meeting that way, and the other half are face-to-face, typically at the University Park campus when it can happen that way. Once in a while we once in a while we do have to move from campus. Your monthly reports are due by the 15th of each month. It's pretty simple form that you do. It's a web-based form, that you can simply complete, check off what needs to be checked off, and move on. It does not take very long. And of course, the state events. You're required at all state events, state 4-H events, I should be specific there. Right now, and we're going to get into these a little bit more in a moment, but as we said before, that'll be leadership conference, twice for you if you apply, once as an incoming and once as an outgoing member. Capital Days, there will be a new 4-H event over the next year being planned that is taking the place of what you used to know as State Achievement Days. And then we require a few of you to be, well, at least one of you to be at each of the contest events, which again, we'll talk about momentarily.
So here is a list of that whole comprehensive state event requirements. As Sam said, you will attend SLC as a registered participant. So you must attend for the full part of the conference. We have training and orientation weekend. I should back up and say that if you look in the newest version of the handbook, all of the dates that we know of are published in the handbook, so make sure you check that out and before you commit to the application. So we have training and orientation weekend, which is shortly after SLC and the induction ceremony. We do some training, get you prepared for the year, but it's also a great team bonding experience. We'll have Capital Days. We annually do a Lancaster farming visit. And when able, we visit the Department of Agriculture too on that same day. Like Sam said, we'll have a new event replacing State Days coming in 2020. We have many state contest days. So anything from shooting sports to food science or food challenge that will be coming out this fall, livestock judging, all of those types of events. We want at least one member from the team at each of those. Like pictured there, we take pictures with the winners, and there's different things that can be done to promote council at those. So we like to have at least one person there representing. Wednesday of Ag Progress Days, it goes on for 3 days, but Wednesday is the most important for us because it is Government Officials Day and an opportunity for everyone to get to meet those people. Usually the governor's there, definitely the Secretary of Ag, lots of county commissioners, and so forth. So that's a big day for us. The Pennsylvania Farm Show in 2021, which seems crazy to think about, but that would be the farm show for this incoming team. There are 2 required days of that whole 10-day show, or however it is. We go in before the farm show actually opens, and there's a big reception for all of the ag commodities, as well as our role in opening ceremonies. After that, after those 2 days are over, there are things that council can participate in, but they are no longer required. Hopefully someone can attend all of those. And then finally, SLC 2021 will be this council's event to plan and also their retirement ceremony.
Okay, so in addition to the required events, there are also several that we hope that all, if possible, can make it to, but at least a few of you make it. It gives us the we're able to be seen. Everybody, we're and vocalized, and where people know who we are. So local requests, like we talked about before, for workshops and officers trainings and so on and things like that, that you could be called on for anything at the local level, just about. The Pennsylvania Farm Bureau annual meeting takes place in November each year, and that's in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and it's a very nice event. And they actually ask us to do, the council members to do some mic work and run around the floor a little bit with the people, along with some other great events, dinners, and so on that you get to be involved in. The premier National Junior Dairy Show happens in September. That's at the Farm Show Complex in Harrisburg. And that's also an opportunity for you to be seen and for people to recognize who you are, as well as the PA Dairy Princess Coronation when available, somebody for that. Volunteer forums, they're often either county or regionally held. Most often they're county held so that there's enough people there to have them. So state council's often invited to them. to sometimes present, sometimes talk about council, whatever they're called on. I'm skipping one just for a second because we'll come back to that one last. Farm City Day happens as well in the fall, and that's the Farm Show Complex. That's just a day long where we get to have the opportunity to meet a bunch of young kids from across the area in Harrisburg for them to experience. We'll have an activity for them to do to experience some kind of ag related or 4-H related activity. And other events is requested. Again, there's things pop up all the time. The Celebrate Ag Day is often the one a lot of people get most excited about. That is a day that we get invited to attend a Penn State football game. Often, although not always, we are invited onto the field to help with different things pre-game. So that's a great opportunity to see that and just enjoy a game for the day, in addition to a tailgate that's sponsored by the College of Ag Sciences in, I believe, oh my goodness, Jeanette, help me out here. The building name just escaped me. I'm sorry.
If I could get unmuted here, Ag Arena.
Thank you. I could
Yep.
that word saved my life. Thank you.
Yep.
So again, those are encouraged events, not required, but we sure always hope that at least a couple can come to those events.
Next piece for you to be aware of is that we do have a Pledge of Office agreement. You can find the copy of this in the council handbook that's, as I said, on our website. This is the agreement that the council member makes to fulfill their state council expectations. Once you have made the team at SLC, you will bring a signed copy of this to the training and orientation weekend. It needs signatures from you, a parent, your 4-H educator, and then us as well. We feel very strongly of our role in this team as well, so we make sure we sign off on that and hold us to the same agreements that you were making. So just so you know that that is something you'll sign off of. If there's ever any disciplinary issues, we refer back to that first. But you can read it in full in the handbook.
So your financial commitment for your year on council is actually, we try to keep it as small as possible. Typically, when our budgets allow, which fortunately for the past several years it has allowed it, we are able to reimburse mileage to and from events upon your request. Uniforms, which we'll get to in a moment, about what you're responsible for there to purchase, but most of your uniform is provided. All of your lodging, meals, and materials at meetings and events are handled by us and through us, so you don't have to worry about making hotel reservations and paying for a hotel at overnight events or the state 4-H events. You'll be registered through us. Other than that very first leadership conference, you'll need to be registered through your county. And then, kind of like I just said, they're all event registration after that first leadership conference.
So just so that's clear, the 2020 SLC that's coming up in February, you will have to pay that registration fee, or your county, however that typically goes. Okay, so the uniform. The uniform has certainly expanded in recent years. You might have seen some changes here. I didn't mention I was a state council member, and it looks way nicer than what I used to wear. We've certainly changed with the times. So just to go through what each piece is, our formal uniform is the green blazer, which you probably recognize. For the men, we have the white shirt, black pants, black shoes, a tie, which is not in that photo, but there is a gold tie that goes along with it. For the ladies, we provide the black sleeveless dress that goes underneath. There's also, ladies will need pantyhose and black flats to go along with that. Our business casual uniform, we have some variations of that. There is the green polo and the blue polo. So that's our short sleeve, warmer weather option. And then there's actually Trisha sporting the long sleeve business casual option that we have. With both of those, we require khaki and black pants to go with them. We provide all of that I just mentioned. Let me back up here. Let me say this again. We provide the blazer, the dresses and pants, the polos, the long sleeve shirts, and the tie. I think I got all of that. So what's there on the screen listed is what council provides. At this point, the black dress shoes, they need to be closed toe and dress shoes. Brown dress shoes that go with the khakis. Ladies will need pantyhose in a natural color, and also black and brown belts to be worn with the business casual. Also, in addition to that, we provide business cards, a messenger bag, a padfolio, and business card holder.
So now we've told you about all the things that are required of you, but here are some pictures. The next couple slides are some pictures of some great opportunities you get. Many of them we've already mentioned, but just to show you what it looks like during these events. So in the upper left, that's a group touring the Lancaster farming facility. Underneath is one of our former officers presenting at a state meeting. Down below on the left is a couple council members at Farm Show being interviewed for a local TV station. Right smack in the middle is, believe it or not, that's one of our council members dressed in Clover Bear there. And that's their pictures taken with the Secretary of Agriculture, Russell Redding. The top right is one I referred to before, which is a group on the field for the Celebrate Agriculture Day at the Penn State game a couple years ago. And then just below that is the group at the Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture, one of the veterinary labs or meat labs at that facility that they got to see and tour.
I'd like to add that a lot of these things are something most people, not even just most 4-H'ers, but most people never get to do. They don't usually take people into the print part of the Lancaster farming, yet they happily invited us down to do that. The secretary will recognize you anytime he sees you out in public. Like, that is an awesome part of this experience. Now, on this page, we have a couple more really great opportunities. Top left is one of our current members, Molly, had a chance to go to Citizenship Washington Focus, which is a national event. Pretty much no cost to her. They needed to fill some more spots from our delegation in Pennsylvania and asked if a state council member was available, and she was. So she got to go experience a national event. Below that, we are actually inside the butter sculpture at Farm Show. We go down and are part of the unveiling of that before the Farm Show starts as well. Pretty interesting and slippery inside there, as you can imagine, with all that butter. Bottom is us at Capitol Days this year. They allowed us to go into one of the chambers. Again, the public does not usually see that room, so very cool for us. Middle photo there has a great backstory to it, but basically one of our council members got to meet the person who he had read about in a magazine and influenced his career choice. They were both keynote speakers at a banquet, and so Jared got to meet one of his idols, which was amazing. The top is council at a local meeting, getting to interact with some members. And then last but not least, when the governor shows up at Capitol Days, you just stop and pose for a picture. We were not expecting his visit, so that was a nice surprise, and council got to spend a few moments with him before going into the full session.
Before I start this slide, I just want that warning more for Jeanette. We're getting a storm where I am right now, and my service is kind of getting a little funky. So if I disconnect quickly, I'll be back in as soon as I can. Anyway, so state council applications are currently due on September 13th. So a little more than a month away. We're going to talk more about where to find the application if you don't already know. But the most important thing there is that it does not take just a few minutes to complete. So please don't wait until September 12th to begin your application. Please make sure your applications are completed in full. All the required signatures are there, and all the required information that is asked are on there as well.
Yes, absolutely. We do not accept incomplete applications, and that also includes references. Now, with the references, you'll provide them on the application, which is due the 13th. We reach out to your references after we receive your application. So those are not due on the 13th as well. We reach out to them afterwards and let them know when they need to return it to us. But it is your responsibility to make sure we have received them. We aren't going to reach out to you and say, hey, we only got one of your 3 back. That's up to you to make sure that all 3 did in fact submit. So I just want to mention that as well. Where to find the application, the way our website is set up might be a little tricky, but just if you find the state council page, that's a little button off of our main 4-H page. You get to the state council page. At the very bottom, there is a section that talks about the process. You'll click on the word application. It's kind of a highlighted link within the paragraph. You'll click on that and it'll take you right to the fillable document.
Okay, so this is the process that'll happen should you decide to apply this year or in the future. One thing I should mention, as I just said, that is that the information that we presented throughout this is for the next council team. So some of this information may have changed by next year. So if you aren't applying this year and planning on applying next year, we recommend that you're on here again next year when we do this in case there are any changes. Anyway, so the applications, as we said, are available now on the website. So again, if you are planning to apply this year, please don't wait. Make sure you get started now, and make sure on the same note with the references that you actually ask your references if they will be a reference for you before we send them. There's nothing more uncomfortable than a reference saying that they didn't know that they were even listed as a reference and aren't comfortable doing one. So please make sure you ask first. Interviews will be held this year on Saturday, September 28th at the state 4-H office. It's the only date we're holding them. You will be given a time to attend that interview. The interviews take some time, but it's not an all-day event for you. Just the trip there, do your interview and presentation, and then be done for the day. If you are moved beyond the interview process, and we accept you into the final round, which is, so to speak, will happen at State Leadership Conference in February of this year, late January, early February of this year. So first on stage at State Leadership Conference, you'll do your short introductory speech, just making sure all the delegates there know who you are and why you want to be on state council. You'll also be given an impromptu question out of a fishbowl that will you'll put your hand in, pull out a question, and have to answer that. And then the delegates there from each county, not every single person, but the delegates from each county will vote on who they want to see on state council. And that only counts for a portion of your final score, but it is an important one. So make sure you practice those speeches and get some impromptu questions asked to you ask your extension educator locally, and I'm sure they'll help you with that. And then finally, the same also on Leadership Conference weekend, we have the officer selection, which we don't like to talk too much about. Just know that that happens that weekend. It's kind of that's supposed to be a surprise, so to speak, so that you there's no way for you to prepare for that, really. So nothing to be afraid of there. And finally, if you finally finish all those processes through and complete them successfully, your last step is induction during closing ceremony on February 2nd at State Leadership Conference.
Okay, so we will open it up for questions at this point, and feel free to, for this, you can unmute and speak to us, or feel free to type it in the chat. Just make sure your video stays off. But I also want to give Trisha an opportunity to speak and talk about the council year thus far. Since we've changed the council timeline, we used to go state days to state days. Many of the events we talked about have not happened yet for Trisha's team, but she still has 6 months under her belt that she might be able to share with you.
Do you want me to go ahead and share?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So council this year has been a lot of fun. The rest of our team is one of my closest friends at the moment. Super awesome to work with. My first big event was Capitol Days, which I had never been to. So that was definitely different experiencing that, especially on the council standpoint. And I learned a lot from it, and I'm really excited that I finally got the opportunity to go to it. And I also got to go to the state contests with the Animal Bowls and Hippology in May, which I've never been to Achievement Days, let alone the different contests. So it was really interesting to see like the avian contest and the horse bowl, because I don't know much about avian or horses. So I got to learn a lot from there too. And Ag Progress Days is next week. I also have never been to that. So I'm super excited to go to Ag Progress Days. And so far council has been a great experience, and I love it. And it takes up a lot of time, but there's not one moment that I don't love the time I spend taking it. One tip I do have for you guys if you get on council is I use for my Gmail, I have the app on my phone. I have the notifications set, so I see the emails as soon as I get them. So it's really easy to keep on top of emails when you get them straight on your phone screen. Does anyone have any questions?
I don't see anything in the chat box yet at this point, but I do want to put mine and Sam's email up there in case after tonight you have some questions that come up. Just note there that you do need to copy both of us on any emails that you ask. Part of Penn State policy that we can't converse one-on-one with you. So you probably saw when I sent you the information or replied to your emails that there was someone else copied. So that's why, since we're both advisors, that way we can both answer you if one of us sees it before the other. So if you have any questions, just be sure to use both of our emails.
Hello?
Yes.
Hi, I have a question real quick.
Sure.
Who would you recommend as the best type of people to be our references?
Okay. I believe on our application we give you categories of some sort. I believe we definitely ask for your 4-H educator.
Okay.
They best at the local level. I believe a 4-H volunteer, so you can pick a volunteer that knows you well, and then a non-4-H. So it could be a teacher or a coach. outside of the 4-H world.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. So unless you're from a county that has multiple educators, that one's probably the only one that you're set in stone with. The other ones are a little more open for whoever you want to choose. Okay, if there are no others, like we said, if you think of anything, feel free to reach out to us, any of the current council members as well. We will be posting this recording, like I said, on YouTube, but we'll also make sure we send it to the list of those who signed up. So you should get it definitely not tonight, tomorrow, or within the early parts of next week. You will definitely see this recording in your email box. So be on the lookout for that. And we thank all of you for joining us tonight. Hopefully this answered a few more questions about what we do and what we expect of council members, and hope to see you for applications. Oh, I do see a question about college. Trisha, you're about to go to college as well. I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on this to share. Would this impact my college career?
I don't, I think, well, I'm not like in college yet, but I'm going to Penn State, so I'll be up at Maine. So I'll be there already for meetings, so I won't have to travel. I'll just have to walk a few blocks. But the only thing I'm really worried about, as far as like college, is going to like the events in the fall and stuff, and managing going to my classes. But when I scheduled, I just made sure I didn't schedule that many classes on Fridays and Mondays, because that's usually when council events are. So it'd be fairly simple for like me to not, I mean, it sounds bad, but like to not go to class, to go to council events. That's really the only concern I have as far as like college, unless you're like planning on doing work study programs or something that you already have that planned. But I don't really think that's like, I don't really think it will interfere with council that much.
From my own council experience, which has been a lot of years ago at this point, but I preferred, because I did a split time, part of my term was in high school, the other part was freshman in college, and the same as Trisha, I happened to be at Penn State, so that was convenient. But I did prefer the college time to do it, because I had more time that was my own. Breaks throughout the day that I could work on council assignments, a little more flexibility to go to events and not have to worry about, am I taking off too many days in high school? That can sometimes be an issue for some of our council members if they are involved in many things and take many days off in high school. That is sometimes a concern, but I felt that college was a little more flexible with that. It really depends on you and what you have. In the past, some members, I'm not saying this is the answer, but some things that people have done before is take a gap year afterwards. They want to figure out what they want to do, or devote the time to council events and experience as much as they can from that. Others go through and with their college plans, but maybe don't join clubs right away. They wait until the second half of their freshman year, right around when council ends, to start joining clubs and really getting heavily involved with jobs and other things offered on campus. So it really does depend what works best for you. All right. If there's no other questions, we'll sign off. And thank you all for joining us tonight. Again, feel free to reach out to any of us as you have questions with the application, and we look forward to seeing them next month. Have a good night, everyone.